Howdy, my name is Hudson Wittig. Today we're going to be discussing the point of stasis surrounding whether or not the United States population is overreacting or not reacting strongly enough to the coronavirus pandemic, right? And so for the affirmative, I'm going to be arguing that this House believes that the general U.S. population is in fact overreacting to the coronavirus pandemic. The first reason of which I'll give kind of some more context is that, for the economic consequences of the coronavirus pandemic that have been coming, a record 6.6 million Americans applied for unemployment benefits compared to the 3.3 million who sought benefits 2 weeks ago. 6% of the U.S. labor force has filed for jobless benefits in the last 2 weeks, up from 0.3% at the end of February, right? And this may not be something that the United States population is causing entirely on their own through the panic, but it is, of course, contributing to the panic that I'll be detailing in later sources. Okay, and so the next point that I want to make, right, my next argument is that a lot of the reactions within the United States are being made extremely based on limited data. Okay, so there's a report from a Stanford professor that indicates we're severely overreacting to the coronavirus based on statistical analysis, right? And so the argument he makes is that obviously with the test not being widely distributed right now, we are probably missing the vast majority of cases that are actual coronavirus infections, right? And with that said, of course, the real fatality rate is going to be much lower because with way more infections and comparing that to the people we know have died, obviously that's not something that requires the test to know that they've died of. The actual case fatality rate is much lower than something like seasonal influenza. So locking down the world with potentially tremendous social and financial consequences, as we discussed in the earlier argument, it may be totally irrational. And that again brings me to the point of our terminal value here, which is rationality, which I believe should be valued much higher than these short-term knee-jerk reactions that we've been doing. Okay. So another example of how we're making decisions based on limited data is a report through motherjones.com, an article that I had looked at. You've got a whole lot of misinformation spreading around right now on both the right and the left from foreign sources and domestic. Some examples of which, the Fox News ecosystem and its digital adjuncts have peddled bad faith disinformation, underplaying the severity of the coronavirus and misrepresenting our administration's slow response. It also hit the left wing and apolitical circles as people with the best intentions share unsubstantiated, misleading, or outright false information. Okay, some examples of these that are coming out are like, oh, if you drink water every 15 minutes, it's going to help slow the spread of the coronavirus. Or, oh, if it's, higher humidity helps slow the spread of the coronavirus. And other word that has been causing mass panic, like certain cities are going to be shutting down roads and transportation, and when it's all in fact sourced by a viral hoax text chain or whatever it might be, right? And so all of these are just contributing to a lack of rationality, which brings me to my third argument that public behavior has become in fact completely irrational. Okay, so I'm gonna go over like one of the effects that's been happening because of the mass panic. So you all know that we've been doing, or not we specifically, but a lot of individuals have been in fact panic buying resources such as toilet paper, food, water, you name it. And so one of the effects given by this article I read from MSN.com is that the elderly and newborn mothers are feeling the effects of other people panic buying essential items during the coronavirus outbreak. So one of the observed instances in this from one of the people interviewed was that they observed an old man at a store who had allegedly told her that he had been riding buses all throughout the day just to find a pack of toilet paper that he could actually afford to bring home. Because it's been so heavily bought at all the other locations that people who are in desperate need of it cannot get it because people are buying 48 rolls at a time, going back and back, to the stores over and over again and buying as much in bulk as they can. Another instance was that a new mother couldn't even find any baby wipes, excuse me, or even napkins to help treat her baby for the daily care needs of a newly born child. And so that's just a few examples of how people are completely behaving insanely in response to something that, yes, we need to take seriously. However, it is not something that needs to be treated as an apocalyptic scenario. Another example of this is that individuals are buying firearms and ammunition at crazy levels. For instance, in the Wichita Falls, pawn shops have been seeing increases in gun sales during the pandemic, as well as ammo.com, which is a pretty well-renowned ammo distributor online. They saw a 434% increase in sales over the past month, which is completely unprecedented, insane, and again, just gives value to the fact that people are behaving completely irrationally, treating this like an apocalypse scenario, when in fact, you should be, yes, preparing, but you should not be panicking, which is again what we are seeing right now. So the criteria that I'm giving to all of you is that you should buy what you need, prepare, don't panic, because otherwise you're just going to cause troubles for everybody else. Okay? Thank you. Okay, now for the negative side, I'm going to be arguing that this House believes that the general U.S. population is not reacting strongly enough to the coronavirus pandemic, right? So my first reasoning for that is going to be that China's extreme reaction to the virus resulted in more effective containment than our country's reaction right now. And sources from both the United Nations News, as well as foreignpolicy.com kind of explain this. Obviously, we all know recently with the controversy going around with China hiding its numbers. Yes, I'm well aware of that. However, what I'm arguing is that China went to extreme measures, that gave a high price paid by Wuhan citizens with a lockdown and bought time for the rest of China and the world, which was, again, effective in containment, allowed the rest of China to be able to contain the outbreak. And, even with the lies about the numbers and everything, you can look at how authorities are behaving rather than what they're saying. Life is returning to quasi-normality in most of China. Physical distancing measures have been severely reduced. Hospitals aren't overrun, and medical staff are being withdrawn from Wuhan. So, again, yes, they're lying about the numbers. However, they are definitely given a more effective response than we have in our actions. My second reason is going to be that people aren't taking social distancing and other disease countermeasures seriously, right? And I'm sure y'all have all seen this as well, especially amongst people of our generation. But one large example is that Liberty University has brought back its students and reopened their university. Okay, and so they pulled a lot of their students back on campus. They encouraged them actually to come back, and within a week after, they already had nearly a dozen students who were sick with symptoms that were in fact suggesting COVID-19. Okay, so that's just one example amongst the entire country. Something from the World Health Organization's 72nd Situation Report states that to be effective, public health measures must be implemented with the full engagement of all members of society, including communities and professional groups. And that is how I'm going to define my terminal value in the hierarchy here, which is unity. If we're going to stop this disease, it has to be engaged, unified as a whole. If we're not doing that, we're going to fail, and we're not going to be able to stop the disease as we need to. And following that, I'm going to bring into the scene my third argument, which is that there's also not been enough preparatory action unified amongst us to combat the virus. Okay, and so this article that I read from resilience.org argues that yes, extreme preparation can be seen as something quite unpopular. However, problems that start out small but have the potential to create systemic ruin must be solved when they are small, even when we don't think they're big issues. The current result of letting coronavirus infections get out of control is a breakdown in the normal functioning of society for at least a number of months, if not more than a year. And of course, we'll get the snap economic depression to go along with it. However, in order to contain such potential pandemics in the future, you have to overreact and panic early, right? And what he's saying by that is, you have to act soon. You have to act before it becomes an issue. And yes, that might be unpopular, and the person who overreacts early will never be remembered as a hero, because people are always going to say, oh, well, we did all that and it wasn't even a big deal. It never became a big deal because you prepared and overreacted, quote unquote, so early, right? Another example, and this is from the PAHO, which is another disease-focused organization kind of similar to the World Health Organization. The director herself said that countries must make domestic investments now. She said, I cannot emphasize enough that countries must take urgent action to prepare hospitals and health facilities for what is coming. Governments at the national and local level should organize health systems based on the assumption that their areas will be affected. And I guess this brings us back into the fact that, yes, we all need to be unified in our preparation, in our overreaction, again, quote unquote, to the virus so that it becomes less of a problem. And right now it is a huge problem because we've not been unified in the way that we've reacted. And I can take that into account through the application of the criteria that we all need to act to stop the spread. My application being that I actually have been working with an ER for the past couple weeks now, and I see people who are not practicing any of these, guidelines, everything. They're coming in even when they're showing symptoms such as, like difficulty breathing, cough, fever, whatever it may be, thinking that they're going to die if they have the coronavirus. And the best thing you can do is stay home in that instance. But they're coming here endangering everybody else at an emergency room, not even just an urgent care, simply because they're not following these guidelines. They're not being unified in our reaction to the coronavirus, which would be solved exponentially faster had they been doing so. Thank you.